The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, this is Tom Lane, DM2 Software's Vice President of Sales and Marketing. I would like to welcome everyone to today's Understanding the Upgrade Process webinar. Before I introduce today's presenters, I would like to go over a few housekeeping items. Because of the number of attendees we have on today's webinar, everyone's phones will stay on mute. If you have any questions during the webinar, please enter them into the question window that you see on the lower right of your screen. We'll try to answer everyone's questions at the end of the webinar. If we're unable to get to your question, we'll follow up with you after the webinar. Today's webinar is being recorded. As soon as the recording is available, we will post it on our website and our YouTube channel and send you an email to let you know when it's available to be viewed. On that note, I would like to introduce today's presenters. We have Teri Coleman, Professional Service Consultant for DM2. And prior to Teri being a professional service consultant, she actually managed the upgrade group for a number of years, so she's intimately familiar with today's topic. And joining her today is Colin Chambers. He's our Senior CRM Consultant, and Colin will touch base on CRM upgrades after Teri talks through ERP upgrades. On that note, I'll turn it over to Teri. Take it away, Teri.
Thank you, Tom. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining the webinar today. So, first note of business, there's going to be a lot of terminology throughout this webinar, and I just want to make sure everyone understands what all of it means. So, with the change, Sage made some naming change conventions from older versions to the new version, or to standardize it. So what everyone has always known as MAS 90 or MAS 200 is now Sage 100. They call it Sage 100 ERP, and then they break it into categories. So the old MAS 90 is now Sage 100 ERP Standard, and the MAS 200 or Client Server version is now called Sage 100 ERP Advanced. And then with the newest version, the V2013 version, which we'll talk a little bit more about, that's called Sage 100 ERP Premium because it has a SQL backend. And so we'll get into that stuff a little bit more in detail as we go through this presentation. ERP, we're going to talk about two different upgrade pieces, if you will. The ERP upgrade, which is your enterprise resource planning, your back office system, your accounting system, everything related to GL, AR, so on and so forth. And then your CRM system, we'll also touch on that upgrade, which is your customer relationship management system. It's your front office, your sales and marketing, or customer service tool. So as far as versions, naming of versions go, we have customers anywhere from version 4.3, 4.4, 4.5, and now on the latest version, which is version 2013. Sage went to a naming convention of naming it based on the date that, or the year that it was released. So the next version is not called 5.0, it's called version 2013. So those are just some information that will help you understand some of it. Okay, so the ERP upgrade is what I'm going to talk about today. And, you know, the agenda for this whole webinar is, one, what are my upgrade options? Why should I upgrade? When should I upgrade? And how does the upgrade process work? So we're going to go into each one of those in a little bit more detail. So we're going to start with what are my upgrade options. With an upgrade, you have several different options as far as the type of upgrade that you want to do. The first one is a standard introversion upgrade. And an introversion upgrade is going from one version, such as 4.3, to a completely different version, such as 4.4 or so on. If you're currently on 4.4 and you want to upgrade to a new version, you would then do an Introversion upgrade to the recent release of 2013. The next option is a standard Introversion upgrade. Within a release that you're on, such as 4.4 or 4.5, there are different releases that happen on a quarterly basis that add either new features or functionality that you may want to take advantage of. So the option is always there to do what's called an Introversion upgrade, where you just go from the first, we'll just say the first 4.4 release to a more recent 4.4 release. The biggest difference between the two is the extent of how far you're going and the need for more discovery into how your processes or system may change between the two. There's a much bigger jump from an introversion than an introversion. The third option, which we've had several customers take advantage of recently, is something we've really discovered is a great opportunity for certain customers who've been on the system for a long time. It's called an ABS upgrade, or Advanced Business Solution upgrade. This looks more like a new install process. Basically, you can work through the upgrade process by doing a new install. Instead of converting everything from the old version, maybe there are some things that you've had set up in your system for years that you'd really like to change. Some real, structural setup issues or things that you really would like to see work differently. They've just been set up for so long that you just continue to work with them. Well, with an apps upgrade, it goes through the entire new install phase methodology of creating basically a new system with those things that you want to change or you would like to, you see as a big benefit to your business. So that is also another option. Currently, with version 2013, you have a choice in the what do I want to say here? The back end of the ERP system, you have a choice with version 2013 where you can do an upgrade to the standard ProvideX language database or to a database that has a SQL backend where all the data is actually stored in a SQL database. So there's a couple different options with the new version 2013 release. You'll want to contact probably our sales department to talk about those two options. I don't know if there's any additional cost or not, so that would be something you'd want to contact the sales department about. But it gives you some opportunity to, if you have the, if you really have the IT staff to function well with a SQL database, then that might be a great option for you for reporting purposes. Some of our customers are happy using the SQL export functionality to get reporting. Now you have an option with the new version 2013. Okay, so those are the 4 options right now for upgrade. So let's talk about why should I upgrade? There are a lot of reasons about why, and they're all very important reasons. So it's important to take a look at the different things that are important to your business. So how important is technology to your business? If technology is important, you may need to upgrade. There's lots of different reasons why technology might be important. You've got some cost savings in areas, growth opportunity, some different decision-making, business decision-making opportunities that determine why you should upgrade. With changing technologies, I'm going to touch on this subject a little bit here. With changing technologies in the world, there are different reasons that you may need to upgrade. Not necessarily you want to, but you may need to. Every time a Sage version is released, it is released with a new set of required supported platform requirements. So let's say you need a new server. Your server is getting outdated. You need new technology for multiple reasons. The mass system may or may not be compatible with a new server operating system. So it's very, very important that you contact someone at DM2 to get a hold of that supported platform matrix document to make sure that what you need to do or want to do is going to be compatible, because that directly relates to your continued support of your ERP system. Obviously, support is a big deal. You need to have access to resources that can assist you with anything that may arise. So making sure that you look real closely at what your technology needs are and how those directly relate to your ERP or CRM system. Because you don't want to get into a situation where you go and upgrade your server and you want to put math on that new server and find out at the last minute that it's not a compatible supported platform. So very, very important. There's another reason. Maybe your upgrade decision is really based on your business needs for new features. We are coming out with new features with every release, and even intro releases. So it's important to always know what's coming. We have documentation. We have a new feature document that highlights all of the big new features that come out in every release, and that is available to you on the website. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So it's important to decide, is a feature coming out in a new release a big enough business decision to warrant that upgrade? Maybe it will make you much more efficient and cut out a lot of time that you spend doing in other areas or manual processes. So the why you should upgrade has a lot of variables. So it's really understanding what's important to your business. Is it the technology side? Is it, new features? Do you have a server that's getting old? All sorts of different things that go into the why should I upgrade. Okay? Okay, so let's talk about when should I upgrade. The when is an individual client decision. There's lots of reasons that go, or the decisions that go behind when you should upgrade. So I'll talk a little bit about some company culture things that we see in an upgrade. At DM2, we typically have 3 different categories of clients when it comes to upgrade. We have very early adopters, we have late adopters, and then we have a bunch of people in that middle section. Early adopters tend to want to take advantage of new technologies and being competitive, whether it's related to how just technology takes a play, or it's related to features in the system that are going to give them a long-term ROI. Okay, so those early adopters are not afraid to get onto a newly released version and work through some of the pains of that. They see the benefit of getting in and getting going early. Then we have, I'm going to skip past mid here for a second, then we have late adopters who tend to upgrade towards the end of a release where they know that it's been tested a lot by, it's been out in the field by a lot of customers for a long time because their system is working for the functions that they currently have. There's no pressures from competitors or customers or things, or maybe they just don't have the IT resources to be able to upgrade more often. So there's early adopters, there's late adopters, and then there's a bunch of customers sort of in between where they understand they really need to because they have some upcoming requirements for technology, but they just, that's not their priority at the moment, you know. So it's all over the board as far as when you should upgrade, and really is an individual client decision based on all the variables. So let me talk a little bit about the variables. Version releases. So right now, DM2 is supporting 4.3 through the current version of 2013. Each one of those releases, like I said, has additional features and functionality added. So maybe your decision is related directly to a version release, what's coming out in it. Maybe your decision is based on the technology changes and support requirements. Sometimes, like I said before, if your server is getting old and outdated, you need to replace that to promote efficiencies. There may be a need to do an upgrade sooner than later in order to continue the support of your system and the ever-changing technologies. The Providex versus SQL piece, with the new version 2013, that's a big decision for several reasons, but I'll touch on one specifically. The database management for a mass system is typically less effort, if you will, than a full-blown SQL database where you may require additional IT support either in-house or outsourced to help you manage that database. So when you should upgrade is also dependent on what version you decide to go with. Does it make sense for you to go to the SQL version, or does it make more sense for you to stay in the Providex language because maybe you don't have those kinds of IT resources? Excuse me. And then last but not least is end-of-life announcement. We previously end-of-life, versions prior to 4.3. We will continue to end-of-life versions because we have to follow along the same lines, in the same sort of timelines as Sage, in the sense that we have to be able to support specific versions, but Sage will end-of-life certain versions. They only keep, I believe it's 3 versions, 3 current versions, and that is all that they will support. So as you get to an older version and the years go by and you now have a system that Sage will no longer support, even though we support it, sometimes it is difficult to get support from Sage if they have end-of-lifed it. So it's very critical that we stay in a very close timeline with Sage for not only our support, but for your support. So it's important to pay attention to those end-of-life announcements, especially if you're on version 4.3. So that's another win. Sometimes the decision is put upon you rather than you making that decision. So if you want to keep that decision, in your ballpark, make sure you're keeping up on where things are at and the technology, so that you have the ability to make that decision as to when you should upgrade. Okay? Okay. So we're going to get into the nitty-gritty here. How does the upgrade process work? The upgrade process is a 9-phase project. And I'm going to go through each one of these phases in a little bit more detail. But what I do want to make sure I say is that the upgrade process is so much more involved than just the software itself. The software itself is such a small part of what an upgrade entails. So as we look through this process, you're going to see where there's a lot of effort going on from both sides, where DM2 is taking a great effort in particular areas, and you are taking a great effort in particular areas to make sure that the risk to your project is as low as possible, and you can get as much benefit out of it as possible. Okay? So first we're going to start with phase 0, which is the request for upgrade. This is simply a form that you can find on our website. It is a document that you sign and return, and this authorizes DM2 to perform what's called the upgrade evaluation. This is the very first step to providing you with an estimate. So there's so much information depending on what version you're coming from and going to, that a deeper dive into your system and what you're using is very important to the scope of the project. So then once we receive the request, the signed request for upgrade form, then we will send you a confirmation receipt that we received it so that you know. And then a key note in this particular area is that all upgrades require a current maintenance plan with Sage and a current maintenance and support plan with DM2. So when you send in a request for upgrade form, DM2 will research that information, verify that you're up to date and current. If not, DM2 will inform you if action is required to bring any maintenance up to date, whether that's Sage or DM2. Okay? So that's just a brief piece in requesting and getting that ball rolling. Phase 1, this is the upgrade evaluation. The upgrade evaluation has many, many parts. First, we're going to have you send a copy of your system into DM2. The next thing that happens is a programming code compare is done. They're going to look at your system to determine the differences or need for programming, your custom programming specifically, between versions. So if you have custom in your current version, the decision has to be made, is that custom relevant in the new system, or did a new feature take over that custom programming and it's no longer required? So basically what you get out of that is a list of all your custom programming so you can make an informed decision about what to keep or what to remove, or what has been basically dissolved into the master's product. So after that code compare is done, then you will spend a lot of time with an upgrade consultant reviewing all of the options within your system that relate directly to how difficult or how simple your upgrade scope is going to be. You look at the custom programming list. You discuss any third-party software, all the forms that you use, all the reports that you use, BI jobs, custom office functionality. We talk about test plans and test environments. Test plan is very important. We want to make sure we are testing based on your business needs, your business transactions, and then a test environment, and any training needs you have. Okay, so phase one is a much deeper dive into your system as how it relates to the upgrade scope and cost. Phase two is the upgrade authorization. Basically, once we've done the upgrade evaluation, that gives us the results we need to give you an estimate on your project. We call that form an upgrade authorization. Basically, we put that together, we send that to you, you review and approve. Once that approval comes back to DM2, that places your project into the upgrade schedule and authorizes DM2 to move forward in effort to get your upgrade on the schedule. Okay? So at this point, you should hold off on making any significant changes, whether it's setup or programming. Otherwise, a revision may be necessary to your upgrade estimate. Excuse me. Phase three, so after you approve the upgrade, then that tells us we can move forward. So if you have custom programming, this phase only relates to clients with custom programming. Your custom programming requirements, what you decided to keep, then gets scheduled or put over to the the programming department to be scheduled. So those timelines all depend on the scope of work and the programming schedule. But your upgrade consultant will keep you informed of schedule updates. This here is the official point where your project needs to be locked down, where no new programming changes or significant process changes should be made. Okay, so phase four is the DM2 bench testing phase. We have a copy of your system in-house, and we physically go through the process of what your go-live upgrade would look like, where we take your system, we convert it to the new version, we do all of the in-house testing based upon an agreed-upon test plan and transaction samples from you. So providing a detailed test plan and having good transaction samples is going to help DM2 in making sure that we're testing your business needs. And bench testing is not a full regression test. It is looking for big rocks where we need to make sure we address anything that may or may not have happened during the conversion process. But your user testing will be much more extensive. And again, the timeline depends solely on the complexity of your test plan. Okay, so
hey, Teri, just wanted to, excuse me, Teri, just wanted to give you a heads up. We're about halfway through. We're at the halfway mark.
Well, then I better hurry it up. Okay, thank you, Tom.
Okay, no problem.
Okay, so phase 5, this is a very, very important phase, user acceptance testing. This is where yourself and your users have an opportunity to dig into an upgraded system that's not live yet, test environment to go through all of that, that testing. There's really two options when it comes to user acceptance testing. Not always options for every customer because some projects are just more complex and require a separate test server. But a smaller, less complex project can go through a remote walkthrough process with an upgrade consultant. It's very low-level training and user acceptance testing. A full-blown test server acceptance testing requires a separate machine. It is the best practice for a mid to large, very, very complex project. You can do in-depth user training and documentation during that time period, and the users get hands-on transactional processing. And this will lower your risk factor in your project if you take the time to do this. Okay. So the PreGoLive checklist, this is a very short phase, very simple phase. It typically takes place within a week to days just before your go live. Really, its purpose is to verify and test connections, confirm the go live time, verify that the user acceptance testing checklist has been completed and turned in. We require a backup confirmation document to be signed and returned. And then also confirmation requirements related to the system, meaning no open batches are going to be there, different requirements like that that are related specifically to the data within your system. Okay, so that's something, like I said, that'll happen just right before your upgrade. So then let's talk about go live day. This is phase 7. Your ERP system will be down while the conversion, the migration and conversion is running. Your downtime solely depends on the scope of your project and the speed of your hardware. So if you have any questions related to how much downtime that is, definitely talk to your upgrade consultant. They can give you some information about, experience they have with the size of your company. Your upgrade consultant is your primary point of contact for go live and 1 week following. So as the upgrade process happens, you will continue to communicate directly with your upgrade consultant. Any issues you may flush, any questions you have, any additional training you may need, please contact your upgrade consultant. And also, users really need to take extra effort on go live day to ensure internal controls are being followed and verifying that the system is operating as expected. It's a lot easier to, if you catch something early, to take care of it early rather than letting it sort of build up over the week of your go live. And your upgrade consultant will give you the tools to help with that. Okay, the very last item. After you are live and you've been on the system functioning for a week, phase 8 is the reinstatement of support services. You will have a meeting with your upgrade consultant to review the reinstatement document and discuss any open items. You will return to normal support services. So now you will directly contact the support department rather than your upgrade consultant. And it unlocks your project and allows you to continue with new features, new add-ons, any new programming projects that you want. And last but not least, number 4 is very important to DM2. Please complete your project survey with your upgrade consultant. We take those very seriously because we are continually trying to improve our process for everyone's benefit. Okay, thank you very much. That was a lot of information. I am going to hand over the mic, if you will, to Colin Chambers so that he can talk about the CRM upgrade. Are you on mute, Colin?
Yes, I am. Sorry about that. Hi, this is Colin Chambers, and can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, Colin. Thank you.
Sound about right? Okay. Well, thank you, Teri. And I'm going to discuss today how the upgrade process works for the Sage CRM program. And we're going to follow kind of the same process here, a little bit less detail. I don't have quite as much time. I have about 10 minutes or so. So I'll just give you kind of a high-level overview of what the process is like. what are the upgrade options, what are the different versions. Probably one of the biggest considerations you would have in this decision is the integration that you're using. The integration between Sage CRM and Sage 100, there are actually two primary programs that can be used for this. There's the Sage integration, also used to be called EES, or Extended Enterprise Suite, and that's one program. Then there's another third-party program from a company called Graytrix, and the program itself is called GUMU, G-U-M-U, and we have clients that are on both, and there are pros and cons to both, and really to understand which is the best, approach for you, we kind of need to do a sort of a needs analysis and a review of what version you're on, what you would like to get out of the upgrade, which integration would be best for you. A big consideration for a lot of DM2 clients as well is kind of where are you right now, and how did you get to where you are? Are you already live on the system and you're looking just to upgrade? A lot of times this kind of sparks renewed interest. Sometimes it's been kind of de-emphasized, maybe not fully adopted, and we really need to know, what's going on with your system, and we can work with you on that. We do a complimentary review of your system just to kind of figure out, where you are and where you'd like to go. A lot of DM2 clients are back on 6.2. I even had one that was on 6.0. So this was probably about a 5 or 6 year old installation. A lot of times you're really looking at technology issues if you go that far back. I had one that was on 6.0 that was actually on Windows Server 2000 and Windows SQL Server 2000. So a lot of the considerations to stepping up to the latest version kind of involve technology. 7.2 is the latest version, and you need to have Windows Server 2008 R2 and SQL Server R2 to run that. So that's a pretty big consideration. Usually you need to move it to a new server to do the upgrade, and you need to plan out that whole process. So these are the primary versions. A little bit more about the integration options. This is really intertwined in the decision. So the two options are EES, or Sage Integration, and Graytrix. And if you could please advance the slide again. Okay, so the Sage integration, the benefits of it are that it actually launches the PreGoLive screens. So you actually, run the actual Mass or Sage 100 screens. CRM does not integrate everything. It's primarily focused on sales order, a little bit of integration with inventory. That's kind of the primary focus. You can see invoices, orders, quotes, all that kind of stuff. You do see it directly from the Mass side. But the Sage integration thing that's kind of unique about it is that it really does run the actual Mass modules. So the pricing is more fully featured in this case. DM2, one of our differentiators, is really powerful pricing models. And you're going to get more support for that type of thing in CRM in the order entry than with the Graytrix. Graytrix is improving all the time, but at this point, the best pricing capabilities, DM2 pricing in CRM, are going to be with the Sage integration. A lot of times this is something that you may have never even thought about before. You're probably currently not allowing salespeople to enter quotes or orders. Technically, it certainly is possible. It's fully supported. It's something that you give somebody permissions to do or not. You just allow CRM users to have that capability. It is also possible to create workflows. So say you want to have salespeople just enter a quote and then escalate it to somebody else in customer service or maybe finance department who would finalize the quote. Just about any kind of scenario is possible. But just suffice to say that you can enter orders and quotes if you want in CRM, and the Sage integration is the best way to do that. The downside to the Sage integration is that it's limited. Can you actually go back one slide?
Sorry.
I didn't quite finish with that one. If you notice here, the Sage CRM version is limited by the MAS version. Okay, so you cannot go to the latest version of CRM if you're on Sage integration. If you're on 4.5, then you've got to go back a version. If you're on 4.4, you'd have to go back 2 versions of CRM, and so forth. If you're on 4.3, you'd have to go all the way back to 7.0, and that's like about a 3-year-old version of Sage CRM. And I am going to talk in a minute a little bit more about exactly what that would mean. But if you are on the Greatrix, the big advantage is that you can just install the very latest version of CRM with any version of Sage 100. Okay, if you could skip to the next one. Okay, so some of the other kind of differences with Greatrix. A big advantage that Greatrix has is that if you have multiple MAS company databases, then you can integrate them all into a single CRM database with Greatrix. That's a pretty big advantage. With the Sage integration, it totally depends on the version of MAS that you're on. And at best, even with the 2013, the Sage integration still does not combine multiple MAS companies into a single database in CRM. It would actually be separate databases in CRM, which is completely unworkable, really, for most people. So a salesperson, if they're selling to multiple MAS companies, they would actually have to log in with separate CRM systems. So they could not have a single pipeline, with all their opportunities. They couldn't have a single calendar. And whereas if with Greatrix, you can have 5 different company databases in MAS. They all combine into a single CRM database. You have clear visibility of which company, MAS company the customers belong to, and so forth. The DM2 pricing is not fully functional in CRM order entry in Greatrix. I think it probably will eventually be in the pretty near future. If you have pricing that's based on warehouses and items, then that does carry through. But DM2 pricing, there's a lot of layers to it. It's been around for a long time, and not everything is working in Greatrix, CRM order entry, but we are working on it, and it's a high priority. We have, some important clients that are requesting this, so I think it will happen, in the fairly near future. The one consideration about Greatrix is that it does have a cost. There is a software license fee. Depends on the number of users that you have on CRM. So Greatrix does cost a little bit more, but if you have these requirements, then it's still kind of a no-brainer to go that direction. The services costs are pretty even between the two. Okay, and if you could switch ahead, please. Okay, so the question then becomes, why should I upgrade or consider upgrading CRM? I want to point out and emphasize that CRM is a separate module. It's a separate program from Sage 100. A lot of people kind of have the misconception that CRM really is like a module, like an add-on module for ERP, and it is not at all. It's a completely different program. It's a web-based program, tightly integrated. They're really joined at the hip, and they really leverage each other really well. And in the industry, this is a big thing these days, is to be able to integrate your CRM with your ERP. And I think we have here absolutely some of the very best integration between CRM and ERP that's even possible. DM2 even has some capabilities that really nobody else has. There is a module in MAS in Sage 100 called Customer Relationship Management. If you see that in there, that is not CRM. That is just an integration module only used for Sage integration. Okay? So the reasons why you might be looking at upgrading CRM, if you are on Sage integration, it could be because you're upgrading your Sage 100 version. A lot of times it's based on technology. Maybe you're upgrading your servers, your SQL server, your Windows server, and you just need compatibility with the latest versions. So a lot of times that really drives it. And again, the latest version of CRM requires Windows Server and SQL Server 2008 R2. Okay, and if you could please advance the slide. Okay, so the version of CRM and some of the features that come with the program. 7.2 is the latest version. A lot of times mobile options are something that get people's interest right now. If the sales department is looking to become more mobile, if they'd like to access back office resources, from their phone or from their iPad, from your touch screen, Windows 8, a lot of times this is a strategic decision for the company. You just have to extend out, these capabilities out, away from the local area network or from the VPN. There's just other combinations of access that you need to have. Okay. By far, the most powerful combination that we have is with the iPad running, and it's not a mobile app. It's the full version of Sage CRM on an iPad. And with this, we actually have full capabilities of the Graytrix mass CRM integration. There's an interactive dashboard that works. Reports work. The server-side screens, workflows, reports, everything comes through on the iPad, including order entry in quotes. Okay, so this is a really powerful, combination of features that you get with the latest version of CRM and with the iPad. And I'm relatively confident this also will all work with Windows 8 touchscreen. We haven't tested this to any degree yet, but that capability is mostly there. You can also access all this stuff with terminal services, but the touch screen capabilities just don't really translate through nearly as well as they do through an iPad. It's really, really remarkable how well this works. There is a Sales Lite iPhone app. We're not real strong on this. This is a true, Apple mobile app. It's quite limited. It's sized for the iPhone. Does not run the server-side screens, workflows, dashboards, all that kind of stuff, and absolutely will not access the back office through the Graytrix integration. Windows Tracker, same thing. This is a Windows 8 touchscreen, kind of a mobile app type thing. So it's cool. If you don't need full-featured, if that's what works and if that's what you need, that's great. But just keep in mind, you have to kind of do a review and analysis of what all that you need to have happen there. The program was really completely rewritten for this as well. So the technology is the best. The way the URLs can launch any screen throughout the system. The interface is a lot slicker, a lot nicer, more compatible with later versions of Windows and browsers. We have Yammer support now built right into the system. The social media support is better as well. Okay. And if you could please advance the slide. Okay, 7.1 came out probably about 2.5 years ago. This was important because we had browser independence at that point. Before that, Sage CRM required Internet Explorer, which we had for years. But now you can use Google Chrome, Firefox, which also have an enhanced, much more powerful document management. And you can also run it supported CRM in Apple Safari. Exchange and Outlook integration was improved, and marketing campaigns, mail merges, the dashboard got better, the graphics in the dashboard, fusion charts, and reporting as well. So 7.1 is still definitely an option under various scenarios, and there was a lot of changes there too. Okay, and if you could please advance one more time, and I think this is my last slide. Just to kind of recap, CRM really is a different program. It's also important to note that it touches the entire enterprise, not just the finance department. So this is really important to sales departments, customer service, marketing. A lot of times CRM projects are driven by IT. A lot of times they're driven by finance as well. So just to recap, mobile access, technology platforms, the integration, all of these are things that might trigger, a renewed interest in CRM. And we really kind of need to know where you are and where you want to go to know what your best options are at this point. Okay, and I think my time's about up.
Thank you, Colin.
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, so real quickly here, before we run out of time, we got a couple more things to cover. Before I talk about new features here real quick, I just want to mention to everyone who's considering going through an upgrade or is going through an upgrade currently, we will be offering an internal controls class sometime in the fourth quarter this year. It's highly recommended that that you take a look at taking that class. It will be a great offering, and will really sort of enhance the whole process and how you look at your system. All right, so I just wanted to touch on that real quick. So only have a couple minutes to talk about new features, but this is just a snippet of some of the new features in the latest, what has come into either the latest 4.5 version and the version 2013. The biggest, most important one is number one, all the DM2 modules are now in the new framework. This is very important for everyone to understand and what it means to them. With all modules in the new framework, the path going forward is a much simpler path in a lot of areas. Probably the biggest one I just want everyone to take away from this, as you saw the upgrade process, you can see it's very in-depth. There's a lot that goes into it. It's not a small project. There's a lot of effort from DM2 and a lot of effort from you guys. But with everything now in the new framework, that gives everyone advantages, both DM2 and clients, moving forward to make upgrades less of an effort. It'll never be throw in a disk and upgrade. There's too many variables, but it really helps in our commitment and effort to our clients to make things easier going forward. Getting there takes more effort, but once you're there, you will see great benefits in that. You know, I just listed a few of the new features. There's tons more. We have a new feature document that Tom said that he will include for everyone on the webinar today when he sends out the email when the recording will be available. So Tom will include that for you so that you can not just see, you know, a sentence about the feature. It'll actually give you a little bit of explanation on each one of the features so that you can then talk to an upgrade consultant about possibly implementing or how you use the big feature. So,
Teri, you might want to mention, or I'll mention real quick, that document, the new feature summary, is actually already on our website, and you'll be able to download it right now if you go to the download section of our website.
Perfect. So if you don't want to wait for the email, Tom will include it there, but you can go right now to our website and download it there. So, Tom, I'll give you the last 5 minutes here. Thank you, everybody.
I'm only going to take a few seconds here. I just want to remind everybody that we're bringing our user conference content to you in a series of roadshows that we're doing across the country. We've got 2 planned already, one in Los Angeles on August 25th, so just a couple of weeks, less than a couple of weeks away. And then we have one next month in Atlanta on September 18th. Hopefully you've all seen this invitation in your inboxes by now. You can also go to our website to register for either of these roadshows. But you know, our theme is stay ahead of the curve, and what we're going to focus on during these roadshows is bring you up to speed with what we've been working on and what's available in more detail in the 2013 release, as well as talk about some of the new things that we're going to be working on to help keep you ahead of the curve and keep you ahead of your competition. So that's really it for that. We can open it up to questions now, and it looks like we've got a couple of questions. First question is from Mike over at Blarney Castle. He said, you know, Blarney Castle is a late adopter. They're on 4.4. And he's asking, with our annual maintenance agreement, are we eligible to download and install a test version of the latest product, i.e. 2013 SQL? If so, could we put it in our lab and take a look at the new features?
Well, what I think I'm going to have to do with that one is go back and ask someone. I'm not 100% sure if that's even available or not, but I will certainly find out.
Well, one thing I'll mention too is, there may be a cost involved in upgrading to SQL. As Teri mentioned earlier, you should really contact us here in sales. As a rule of thumb, anyone who originally purchased their system after around April of 2012 is actually eligible for a free upgrade to the SQL platform. Customers that purchased before that, there is an upcharge to go to SQL. And I believe, based on how long Blarney Castle has been a customer of ours, Mike, that there would be a cost involved in that. So if you'd like us to follow up with you, just send me an email and we'll get you a formal quote on that. But as Teri mentioned, our upgrades aren't just spin the disk. So if you did want to go forward and put this into a test environment, I believe you really would have to go through the process for that.
There would be more than just a download of the software because of many reasons, but there's not really a lot of point in looking or testing a standard Sage system without DM2 and without your own data to look at. So if you wanted to look into that, we could certainly talk offline to talk about what would all be involved in that, and there would be some costs related to that.
Okay, thank you, Teri. All right, the next question is from Mike over at Cross Petroleum, and his question is, what SQL version is required for 2013? He pointed out that Colin mentioned that MS SQL 2008 R2 is required for CRM, but his question is, what about on the ERP side?
Good question. I have that information. I just don't think it's appropriate to dig through my email to find it at the moment. So I will certainly respond with that information as soon as I can go pull that up.
Okay, very good. And you know what? We'll include that when I send the follow-up message to everyone. Okay. We'll include that information so everybody's in the know. Next question is from Veronica over at Heritage. When will the SQL version be available?
The
and
SQL
Teri, I
version.
can probably speak to this. We're currently testing with one of our customers. We're calling, it's really the first iteration of our field testing. We're about 70% of the way through with that. We are really expecting the production release to be end of next month, beginning of October, so right around in that time frame. And that looks like all the questions that we have for now. I just want to remind everybody that today's webinar has been recorded. Once the recording is available, I'll post it on our YouTube channel, and we'll also put a copy of today's presentation slides up on our website, and I'll send a message around to let everybody know about that. As I said, I'll include the answer on what SQL version is required for 2013, and I'll also include a copy of our new feature summary in that follow-up message. If you can think of any other questions after the webinar or would like to find out a little bit more about today's topic, please feel free to email us at sales@dm2.com. And that really concludes today's webinar. I'd like to thank Teri and Colin for doing a nice job on presenting, and I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's Understanding the Upgrade Process webinar. Thank you very much.